Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we're going to be checking out a track by an act named Strategy KI titled Monster They Made. And if we switch over to here, we have the track on the screen here on YouTube. It's worth noting that this track was produced by Jumble Beats. We're going to listen through this track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Looks like this reversed sort of music box kind of takes here.
Hey, Jumble, turn it up.
Oh, the Halloween vibe, nice. Again, a really creepy sort of atmosphere to it, with these kind of modulated sort of choir parts in the strings.
They want this brother in a cage, that's another brother in a cage. Feeling the pain, we ain't living the same. Now look at the monster they made. When they step in the net, they're afraid. That's only rat and they should be. Maximum pain they obtain. When I throw on my gloves on my hoodie. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made. Yeah. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made.
Okay, so you got like a nice collection of 808s here going with those really tight sidechain drums. And, you know, really smooth flow from the rapper as well. Look at the monster they made. Repeating that hook line there as well in that field. Great, great. You know, you get the feeling that he's transformed into something that people didn't necessarily expect or want.
Look at the monster they made me. Stretch. Get sourced up if you're not on duty, that's more proof than a horror movie. When the war comes, you gonna load it, you gonna burst it. The truth, the verdict, I know which come quick for the cursing. Got a black cat on my lap, here a purring. They want this brother in a kid.
You know, it's great. I like the fact that we kind of have these moments where we sort of have everything sort of cut out a little bit just for a bit of space in the mix. The vocal flow is consistent. There are little changes in the rhythm and the phrasing of it, but he's got a relatively sort of like a easy to follow way of expressing himself and talking to you and rapping. And the aesthetic isn't getting old, the motif behind it is remaining fresh.
That's another brother in a cage, feeling the pain, we ain't living the same. Now look at the monster they made. When they step in the net, they're afraid. That's only rat and they should be. Maximum pain they obtain. When I throw on my gloves on my hoodie. When I throw on my gloves on my robe, I'm gonna summon the soul. Whatever happens right now, don't break the circle, don't let go. Don't do it. Love from the coast, spill it on stone, OBO with the O. I can get them down with a voodoo doll. They turned me to a monster, what you didn't know. I went and waited at the crossroads and studied the craft of Alistair Crowley. The spirit I fast around me, demons around me. I think they're moving anti, cause they want this brother in a cage. That's another brother.
I'm not talking a lot, and I'm trying not to interrupt it too much. I'm just trying to follow what's going on with those vocals. Even though they're sounding clear, sometimes I think I'm missing some of the words.
In a cage, feeling the pain, we ain't living the same. Now look at the monster they made. When they step in the net, they're afraid. That's only rat and they should be. Maximum pain they obtain. When I throw on my gloves on my hoodie.
Maximum pain out of 10 when we throw on our gloves and our hoodie.
Now look at the monster they made. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made. Yeah. They when they made me a monster. Now look at the monster they made. ESC is done.
I'm liking little bits of vocal modulation there as well, you know. You know what I mean? You can hear that when he goes down an octave or something like that. Adds a bit of size to it. Nice gentle bit of distortion on some of the 808s or kicks. And nice clear sort of trappish kind of beats. To be continued. So there's going to be more of it.
Jumble, turn it up.
It's alive. I'm stepping like Frankenstein with that lift and rat. Do the lift and rat. Slide out in the night. They hide out all fans.
Now we've got the social medias here, the people involved.
Frankenstein. It's alive. I'm stepping like Frankenstein.
It's so frenetic. There's so much going on. Oh, and now we've got that slow down turntable kind of vibe. But no, it's a good time. This is my first time, I think, listening to Strategy KI, if I'm not mistaken. And I had a good time with it. This is the conclusion of my review of this track by Strategy KI, titled Monster They Made. Again, with production by Jumble Beats. What do I think this track is about? I think it's about someone, whether they're a musician or just a person in general, who has been affected by people and they've turned them into a monster. And I don't know whether that's relating to his ability as a rapper or like a hip hop artist or something like that. Or any of the subgenres of sort of like that kind of stuff that they have nowadays, like drill and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think that it could be either. It could even be both, you know. It's a little bit ambiguous. I think this is one of those tracks where you can't really review and listen to it at the same time, just because there's so much going on that you want to sort of focus on. That's why I was quiet for most of it. I've been realizing recently that a lot of people think that I'm doing sort of reaction videos, which is ironic because I don't really react too much during these reviews because I'm trying to listen to it. I'm trying to like pay attention and hear it and sort of be able to analyze and sort of critique it. But I can sort of nonetheless appreciate the fact that me listening to it kind of like with a sort of a straight face for most of it may not have been as interesting, and I apologize for that. It's more literally the fact that with all the stuff going on, not only with the story, but with like the vocals, for example, all the different vocal takes and like the little, like there was stretch that was going on and stuff like that, and little references to like the other people involved in the project as well, like, you know, you know, like Jumble, for instance, and other people. And it's great. You know, like there's definitely no way you're going to get your attention pulled away from the track by anything else because it just keeps sucking you back in. The vocalist, you know, had a great confidence to him. You know, the lyrics came through really smoothly. I'm not going to say that I heard every word clearly. I think there was just a lot to take in, and it was very quick. But that's not a bad thing. I mean, like, it's not like he was stuttering or stumbling over his words or anything like that. Clearly, we are polished and we've had experience on the mic, and I've got to hand it to him. You know, that was cool. And I definitely got the main parts, like the monster they made, you know, like there may be a monster, look at the monster they made or something along those lines. You know, that's going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day. So I suppose that's the most important thing, right? There are other interesting lines in there. You know, like talking about like when he puts his hoodie and his gloves on and stuff like that, maximum pain 10 out of 10 or something like that, you know. So you get the impression basically that when he suits up, he's ready to go. There is no one that's going to stand in his way. And he sounds like he's ready to get down to business in this performance, and I appreciate that. I didn't really think there needed to be any sort of like vocal harmonies or clean vocals or anything like that, you know, having that sort of rapping style there. Man, it remained, you know, enjoyable and easy to listen to for most of the track. You know, with a competent vocal performance, you have to look at the theme behind it, and there were lots of little string parts and reverse takes and the drums and like the really kind of ominous kind of booming bass with a bit of grit and drive on that. And you know, it was an intense sort of time that we had here. It was full on for most of it. Even if we had the drums cut out for a little bit, there was still lots of tension in the air, you know. It very much felt as if you didn't really know what was going to happen next, even though you could probably tell a minute in that we were going to be having like that main motif be the thing that was repeated throughout the track. And testament to Strategy KI and everyone else involved, I think this track was actually just 2.5 minutes and not necessarily 3:20. I don't think that end part was maybe part. I think that might have been a teaser for another track, the one that's going to come next, you know, as it said, to be continued. So with that motif, with that kind of horror kind of Halloweenish kind of spooky vibe to it, you know, it did make sense with those kind of sort of out there kind of twisted sort of string parts and the reverse takes for it to be a little bit demented and stuff like that, kind of like how he's turned into a monster, you know. That vibe makes a lot of sense, especially when you couple it with the video. The audio visual experience here was very well connected. I could understand how everything was done. It was great. It was really well done. It was very professional. But yeah, 2.5 minutes. It was nice and short and easy to follow. You know, it's great. It's a great time. And again, it was kind of cool that they had the next part of the journey in case you're like, oh, what's next? It's smart. It's smart stuff. It's a good way of starting a career, is to launch a track, show people what you got next. You know, have that going, you know. So best of luck to Strategy KI and everyone else involved. It sounds like they're off to doing well. But yeah, you know, like you had those sort of 8th, 16th note grooves there that I'm familiar with nowadays with a lot of sort of contemporary like music within the genre. The bass again sounded a bit more aggressive and gritty with that drive on it, but was still nicely leveled with everything else. And you didn't obviously it was a minor tonality there, had maybe some diminished sort of triads in there or some tritones occasionally just for a little bit of extra spook factor. It matched well, and there, you know, despite the fact that everything was full bore most of the time, it never felt as if it was too much. I think that's part and parcel with the production, recording, mixing, and mastering, which was great. You know, there was a great sort of clarity to the vocals, both in terms of like the raw recordings and also the production they put on it, whether it was like the side pan parts or the main vocals in the center or the modulated sort of down octave ones that they had. We listened to this track and we go, okay, so the vocals are good, and then you obviously had the strings and the other sort of synthy reverse tape parts and the drums and the bass, and all those are pretty sort of well filtered and EQ'd as well. You know, they're nice and tight, a little bit of compression on those drums, side chaining the bass and all that to kind of pop through. Again, there was an awareness of taking that out sometimes just so you could have those other things kind of float, which was cool. I enjoyed that a lot, so that was smart. And I guess finally the limiting compression was great. You know, there were no weird resonances in the frequency spectrum. It was nice and wide in the stereo field. It's one of those tracks I listened to as, I guess, to finish this conclusion that I think, yeah, no, I don't think they needed to do anything differently. I'm just hoping they can continue to find their own sort of unique vibe and sort of niche within the genre. As I understand, there's a lot of people that are trying to do this stuff right now. So I think that'll be the challenge for these guys. Not that I think they're off to a bad start, but it'll be the challenge to maintain their sort of core audience and fan base. And also, it'll be good to see what they do in future just to sort of continue to stand out. Because this is effectively my review of this track by Strategy KI, titled Monster They Made, with production from Jumble Beats. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out their various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.